And in the 1920s, they started building grade schools throughout the city. They built first Angel, which is still here in Berkley, and it's actually the oldest school being used in Oakland County. They built Pattongill. During the Depression, times hit so badly that they had to close many of the schools in Berkley. They were boarded up, not used. And then after the Depression, they actually got a federal grant to restore the buildings, and they were open again. One of the events that happened in Berkley, and what we call the Berkley School, was in the 1960s. They had one of the first cyclotrons in any school in the country, and we became quite famous for this fact that Berkley School, the high school students, actually had a cyclotron in use in the basement of the school. And in 1980, they finally tore that school down because it had been used as a grade school after they built the high school in 1949. So from starting in 1949, they built the high school across the street, and that has just been added on to and grown and grown and grown over the years. And we do have, in the museum, we have a blackboard that comes from the 1919 school. And a lot of children today, of course, have never actually written with chalk on a blackboard. Besides the public schools in Berkley, Berkley had a Catholic grade school, Our Lady of La Salette Grade School. The building is still there on Coolidge at Harvard. And it went from first grade through the 8th grade, and it was closed just a few years ago. And the bench here was a former pew from the church, and it was kept in the principal's office. And if you were sitting on the bench, you knew your mother and father had been called and they were coming to get you because you had done something. Here's one of the first desks that was in the Berkley Elementary School. These desks were used starting in the 1930s, and they look pretty similar to the ones still being used in the 50s when I was in grade school. The early schools were one-room schoolhouses, and they had heat like this, so they didn't have water and they didn't have central heat. This would have had a chimney on it going up to the roof, and they would have used wood or coal in here, and this one-room schoolhouse would have been heated by just something like this. Moving on in time, here's a typical desk starting to be used. This is from Pattongill Grade School. This is from the 1960s and 70s. One thing that everybody that comes in the museum says, if there's one thing that we hear from almost every visitor, it is, what a great city to grow up in. I had a great time in Berkley.
Hi, Patty and Dan McCarty here with the McCarty team, Coldwell banker, Weir, Manuel.
We hope you enjoyed our mini-series, and if you have not been to the Berkley Museum, you have to get there today. It's a magical and wonderful place to visit.